Welcome back for a brand new episode of Jori Sports Stories. I'm your host, Jori, and we've got an action-packed show for you all today. We are diving deep into the heart of weeks 6 and 7 in the NFL, unpacking the latest news and headlines from around the league. It's time to put the spotlight on the head coaching hot seat carousel, what's going on there. And we have a new week's edition of Jori's Jacked Up Tiers, where we break down who looks good and who doesn't in the NFL landscape. Not stopping there, we are also taking a swift pivot into the world of the NBA, where there's never a dull moment. From James Harden's antics to my expectations for the Lakers, we've got strong opinions to share. So whether you're a diehard Gridiron guru, a basketball babe, or just a general sports junkie, we've got something for you all today. So tune in, turn that volume up, and let's get it. My fellow hoops enthusiasts, it's time for the first segment, the NBA segment, here on Jori Sports Stories. First, we discuss my expectations for the Los Angeles Lakers, realistic expectations at that. We then dissect James Harden's shenanigans during training camp and the offseason, and we touch on one silly little situation, one serious situation with Miles Bridges, and more. If you love basketball banter, this is your segment. So let's get it. First things first, in the NBA section, we're going to talk about James. I forced my way out of everywhere, Harden. He showed his absolute rear end all offseason, calling Daryl Morey a liar publicly a few times. And also saying that the relationship is beyond repair. Not showing up to training camp for 10 days after showing up for one. And then he magically shows up expecting to be able to play. He also did not show up to media day. And my perspective on this is like, look, he clearly doesn't want to be there. He's plummeting. He's going so far, I believe, as to purposefully plummet his trade value so that Daryl Morey will have no choice but to trade him for nothing but a pack of chips. That is my theory. That is my thoughts. And that is what I'm sticking to. Here's the direct quote of him calling Daryl Morey a liar. Daryl Morey is a liar, and I will never be a part of an organization that he's a part of. Buddy, I feel like he might have. I do put fault on Morey for deceiving and misleading James. I do. If we're being completely honest. But it's also James is at fault for agreeing to something not on a piece of paper. Handshaking by word only goes so far, because people go back on their word all the time in real life. So, any type of financial agreement, put it on paper. Period. He was also fined for publicly demanding a trade for that. And then he also told the 76ers reporters that he wanted to retire as 76er, but the front office had other plans. Now, why in the absolute, you know what, would we need to know that? So you're going on this big old goodbye campaign right now? Like, what? James, what? I bet the I bet the NBA is working on a James Harden clause about forcing your way out of a place after signing a contract extension. Like, it's getting ridiculous. All the little petty bullcrap games James is attempting doesn't surprise anybody. How many times have we seen him act like this? The man literally donned a fat suit to play his way out of Houston or wherever it was. And it's like you're making teams wary about signing you. I mean, this behavior, I get it. But this behavior is self-destructive behavior because you are not helping yourself get on another team that's going to be willing to sign you, knowing that the second that you get unhappy, you're willing to go to the 9th degree to get up out of there. He's a sign at your own risk type of player. And at this point in his career, on top of all the shenanigans, don't play defense, under pressure you'll fold, and he plays selectively on or off the court. Like, what? Who is going to sign up for that? Plus the shenanigans of when you're not happy. And who's going to sign up for that? The way today's NBA is set up. Nobody with some sense. Absolutely nobody. Bottom line. He's close to, if not to the point of being more trouble than what he's worth. And Philly needs to get up off of him before some of his tendencies start to spread. Excuse me. Joel Embiid is starting to chirp now, too. That's something to watch out for in Philly. Joel Embiid. Because he cried for that MVP and now he wants to win a championship. Well, Mr. Embiid, you can't cry your way into that. So, he's not happy, clearly, because he keeps saying, he's doing a Giannis, making these little mutterings and utterings, and these little quotes that we get a word from every now and then. But, yeah, that's a situation that needs to be monitored as well. As well as this James Harden thing being thoroughly resolved. Now, we're going to go to my Laker talk. We're going to have some realistic expectations. I would like to burst some people's bubble with this list. What this team is not, as of currently, we are not a juggernaut. We are not consistent without LeBron. And we are not a spot-up shooting team. What this team really is, a very good defensive team, hella inconsistent without Braun offensively, a whole bunch of talent that just needs to gel together and be consistent. They're very well coached, and they are a contender in the making. They are. This team is just too inconsistent as a whole, and it starts with Anthony Davis, too. But LeBron ain't on the floor. It all goes to absolute garbage. Anthony Davis needs to find a way to put two good, solid halves together. D'Lo needs to play point guard and not ball hog. Facilitate, not point shave. This team needs to get on the court needs to get it together, like gel together on the court consistently and not be a tale of two halves. Next, here are my top 10 NBA teams as of right now. We have the Nuggets, the Bucks, Celtics, Suns, my Lakers, the Warriors, Kings. I like what the Kings are doing. And I forgot my other one. I'll come back to it. But honorable mention, I like what the Pelicans have started to do. And I also like the Knicks, surprisingly. And before we end this brief little NBA segment, I know the season's already started, so I'll get my notes together about what I thought about the season so far as the next episode, but I need to touch on some things that's been going Like, why is Miles Bridges on a roster? Like, why? He violated something. First of all, he should have been cut when he first got arrested for domestic violence. And the proof came out and the pictures came out. Like, that's something that I don't condone. I don't know why he's still on a roster. That's not something that needs to be in place in the league. Period. Then let me look up the actual. Let me get my facts straight. Yeah. So he's facing an arrest warrant for allegedly violating a protection order. Like, you know you're not supposed to be around her. And then you smashed her windshield. This is a habitual offender. This is somebody who doesn't listen. Clearly doesn't care about consequences. Clearly doesn't want to play in the NBA. Because he clearly keeps doing the same stuff over and over again. So why is he on the roster? That's my biggest question. Like, why haven't they just flat out cut him? They don't want to take a cap hit. I feel like this is definitely conduct detrimental to the league at this point. If it wasn't already. Make it make sense. Just make it make sense. And then, I'm not going to get into the details because that's a little too much. This is a little much for my channel, but we're going to have to touch on my big thing about Dwight Howard situation. It was funny. I will admit, I did have a little kiki. I did laugh because it is funny. Because, considering that he's never really been able to beat these allegations for years. Now, why, and his response was quite comical, but you could tell it was a load of crap. Nice show, Dwight. But what I will say is, why was that even made public? Like, who put this out there? Who put the public in the know of Dwight Howard's dwellings, late night dwellings? Why do we need to know this? And it's not like he can deny it. We see the text messages. And people are making like whole hypothesis of what they think and yada, yada, yada. Why do you care what that man does in his spare time? Well, why do you care? It's not your life. He ain't doing it to you. Why are we so obsessed with it? It's funny. I like to get a little laugh. But these little hypothetical, these little paragraphs about the black community and all this over dramatics and think pieces. Why do you care so much to type a whole essay on Twitter about how you feel about it? Who cares how you feel? Let that man live his life. Whether it's in the closet, out the closet, on the floor, out in the open, whatever. Leave him alone and them think pieces. Because don't nobody care. If we're being completely honest. They're just annoying to see. Like, you decided to sit there for 10 minutes, typing on your phone, laptop, tablet, whatever. And thought, oh, da-da-da-da-da. Like, y'all really be sitting there, folks really be sitting there stewing over what somebody else does with their life. Yes, it's entertaining. But why do you care? That's my biggest question. Rant over. But this season, it started pretty nice, you know. My fantasy team is doing pretty good right now. But thank you to 80s Health Monitor. Shout out to them. Shout out to Anthony Davis. Stay consistent, dude. Stay consistent. 2 good halves. 2 good halves. Now, from what I've seen, The Knicks, don't be surprised about the Knicks, bro. They're playing pretty well. I wouldn't be surprised because Emmanuel Quickly and company and Jalen Brunson, they've been playing pretty well. That's my surprise team for the NBA. Next. Now we're on to football, dedicated to all things NFL. We're packed with the hottest week of Week 6 and Week 7 action, latest headlines, injury updates. Of course, we have Titans talk, and we need to get real here when we're talking about the Tennessee Titans, because a lot of things have transpired, and there's some things that we need to address when it comes to my team, because there's a lot of rumors, and I got a thing or two to pick with some of these damn fans, but that's neither here or there. A spotlight on the coaches who are feeling the heat, and a fresh take on Jori's jacked up tears. So stay tuned as we dive into the gridiron. Let's get it. First things first, in the NFL. My bad, y'all. We're going to go through all the news from Week 6 and 7. We're going to go through all the latest headlines, news, injuries. We're going to have some Titans talk. We're going to have head coach on the hot seat, because there's some things we do need to talk about here. Headlines, drama, whatever. Just a little brief recap, because we're already into Week 8. I've had a lot of things going on in my life that made this episode extremely late. So forgive me. Christian McCaffrey's injury, clearly he's back. He's still in the end zone. Yada, 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 yada. Even though back then, in those 2 weeks, it was very slightly concerning. It was a rib and oblique. Nothing new for him being injured. But Deebo Samuel also narrowly avoided serious injury. The Colts did end up putting the cap on Anthony Richardson's season. He's getting season injury soldier surgery. He's a rookie, and the Colts are already getting him beat up. Kyler Murray was set to return to practice. He is still not ready to play yet, but he is healthy and he's headed that way. I told y'all it was going to be around this window. I wouldn't be surprised, because we're in Week 8, if they get to Week 10 and he's ready. Considering when his injury happened, yeah, he is a little ahead of his schedule. But, yeah. Buda Baker was also designated to return from injured reserve. He's back. Jalen Ramsey had a pick today. We'll get into Week 8 into next episode. Saturday. Yeah. But he was also set to return from injury reserve soon at that point. And then here was the whole drama thing about Deebo and Chauncey Gardner-Johnson exchanging subliminals on Twitter, X, whatever. Sonny Johnson, here's the thing about Mr. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. He's a habitual irritant. In his career. So, anything that happens to him, he pretty much talked his way into it. So, there's that. And then, of course, Deebo's going to respond, because Deebo's not a punk. Period. And then, if you caught me on Hoop Dreams and Touchdown Queens like an episode or 2 ago, I had my little rant about this. But I will gladly go back in. Gladly. Because allegedly, meaning I personally don't know if it's true or not, but multiple notable sources there was a fight. So I'm pretty tempted to remove the allegedly tag, but Big Jeff Simmons went at OBJ after the game and had Ravens players were calling for security. And then Marlon Humphrey decided to go on a stupid podcast to talk about what happened. And Odell Beckham Jr. made some stupid comment about Jeff trying to use the name and trying to come up off his name for clout. First of all, you need him in the ribs, and then you did a classic flop, which got that man a penalty. Second, Second of all, Mr. Odell Beckham Jr., don't nobody need to use your injury-riddled ass name anyway. You're hurt now. You're hurt now. Like, don't nobody need to use your name for clout. And the way you got that clout was from one catch that you did that you did was way back when my running back was in college. Do you know how long ago that was, Odell Beckham Jr. or any of his supporters? That was a while ago. You've had your moments there and there, and you have a Super Bowl ring, but we all know how that happened. Don't nobody need to use your name for nothing. Nothing. Especially not a defensive tackle that just got paid $94 million in the offseason. He didn't have to fight for his contract either. On a multi-year deal, Mr. 1 year, $18 million. Like, come on now. Free agent. Or whatever the contract was. Like, Oh, and this was back at the time where Michael Parsons was also not talking to the media because the Eagles and the 49ers don't get pressed as much as Dallas does when they lose. And they had both lost at that point. Here's the thing, though, Micah. Once you are a Cowboy, you get all the media attention, win, lose, or draw. So get right with that. And your owner doesn't really help. And all this talking and complaining and just this moaning and groaning is making you look a little soft, Mr. Parsons. You're a very talented player. But you talk too much. Jimmy G didn't play Sunday versus the Bears. He's hurt. DK Metcalf is not changing the way he plays and draws flags, even though it hurts the team a lot. And Pete Carroll also said something. He'll say something about it, but DK already said that he's not changing. DK, you're being selfish right now. You're costing your team in the form of penalties. Penalties stack up. You can lose a game because you commit a whole bunch of penalties. You better ask the Browns. They've done it a few times. It's like, if the way you play and the way you harness your energy overall affects what we're trying to do here as a team, DK, I'm going to need you to, what they're doing as a team, you're going to need to figure out another way to channel that energy and get it out there without necessarily costing your team penalties. This is a team game. Those penalties do be costly, especially those penalties are costly. Especially when they're like 15-yarders, 10-yarders that back you up even more, or that just erase the big gain, which we've seen happen when it comes to you. It's selfish, and it's a selfish way of thinking. And I don't like it. And then Devontae Adams is also, again, very frustrated due to his diminishing role on offense. I'm so sorry, buddy. I don't know what to do. They traded your friend. You came specifically for Derek Carr. And Josh McDaniels was like, Derek Carr, deuces. And now you're just stuck. I feel really bad for you, though. Who was on the grill for week 6 and stuff like that? Some things that we need to discuss. I already talked about Odell Beckham Jr., so we're not going to go into that little spill again. But, Bill Belichick. Rumors were getting hot about discussing about removing him. I'm like, all right. And then if you consider the variables, like picking bad groceries, questionable coaching decisions, it's been a snowball effect in a way for like the past 2 seasons. Well, the way I think about it, really since Brady left. He looks inept sometimes, and the whole team has regressed, and they had injuries going on. And I know that the Broncos and Chiefs are still playing right now, and the Broncos have a sizable lead. I believe that's the last time I checked. But this whole Russell Wilson, John Payton situation is a whole thing that we need to grill in itself. Because it's like, they don't necessarily mesh well. They're on two completely opposite ends of the spectrum. Football-wise, they don't mesh. Personality-wise, they don't mesh. Russ's ability to improvise is severely compromised, which is an issue at this point because he's been able to rely on his ability to escape, get mobile, make passes on the run, yada yada. And it's an issue. And at that point of the season, because this is a little later of the episode, they were having an active fire sale. Getting rid of underperforming and unwanted contracts. Frank Clark, Randy Gregory, both gone. But just about anyone with value is available. They're attempting to recoup picks from that fleecing trade that they did to acquire Russell Wilson. I don't know if, because Jerry Jeudy, he's been frustrated. I don't know if he's actively trying to get out of there. Or he's just, he had a moment a week or two ago where he just unloaded about everything. Their offense looks a tad bit dated. A little motion predicated on timing, which is never something that was Russ's strong point, if we're being completely honest. And their defense was horrible. Was at this point. They're playing pretty well right now. But yeah. And we're going to go into some head coaches who should be on the hot seat. I already talked about Bill Belichick, so I'm not going to go there. I will say that I don't think he's adjusted very well to this new age NFL. In my opinion, some may disagree, but from my observations, that's the conclusion that my brain decided to draw. Period. Mr. Reich. Now, one thing, this is a surprise name. You would think that they wouldn't want it done, Frank, but David Tepper is very impatient as a man, and he's already made the mistake of hanging on to a head coach for too long once. They don't really look remotely close to putting together a winning formula. They didn't. They did get a win today. We'll talk about that next episode, but yeah. Chirps of Frank Reich wanting Stroud instead of Bryce Young. And I wouldn't look much into it. He went out and said that we got the guy that we wanted. Even though that could be a bold-faced lie too. Somebody trying to save face, but yeah. At this point, they haven't won a game yet. They did win a game today. It's sticky because I don't think they have necessarily the most consistent and reliable weapons around Bryce Young. They don't. They have old veterans that they just scrapped together. And I don't think it's working. But they pulled it together today. And we'll talk about that more later. Arthur Smith. And this is the perfect day to talk about this. He made the mistake, and we're going to call this what it is, a mistake, a failure, of sticking with Desmond Ritter as a starting quarterback. For an offensive mind, you have an inconsistent offense because Ritter is so, he stinks, bro. He just stinks. He's just inconsistent. He turns the football over. Sometimes he doesn't know what to do. Sometimes he's not seeing the football field correctly. And I can see that. Anybody can see that right there. And they haven't really, at this point of his career, they haven't really opened the playbook for him either. It's run the ball, occasionally throw. Kyle Pitts a myth. Yada, yada, yada. In the city of Atlanta, because I live here, I live about 40 minutes south of, southeast, whatever, of Atlanta. I know that people up here, about their Falcons, they're very impatient. They want it done like yesterday. Want improvement like yesterday. They wasted in all honesty, bro, any Falcons fan could really agree to me when I say this sentence. They wasted time last year with Marcus Mariota. A whole year to be exact. Because when Desmond Ridder did play, because at that point I needed to see more because I saw potential, folks were already saying that he was trash. Now that I've seen more and I don't have faith in Desmond Ridder, and if you saw the game today, you know conversations are going to be had. We'll talk about that later. But Desmond Ridder will probably end up costing Arthur Smith his job if they don't get rid of him. And that's that. Shoot. Like, you have a top 10 defense right now. When was the last time the Atlanta Falcons defense was top 10 in anything? And you got an inconsistent offense. Statistically wise, look it up. They are top 10. I'm not lying. But, yeah. Titans talk. The bye week edition. These were things that we needed to work on. Like our offensive inconsistency. Getting Derek his touches. And Tajay his touches. The one thing that usually when Derek touches the ball 20 plus times, we win. Usually. That's usually how that goes. I don't know how they're going to... They usually... And right now with Tajay, they're doing a pretty good job splitting carries. Derek's going to need his touches, though. Consistent quarterback, offensive coordinator play, no matter the opponent. I want to put highlight on emphasis on no matter the opponent. Because I'm so sick and tired of inconsistency. I can't sit through it. It aggravates me. Defense needs to consistently stop the run. That's my thing. Get off the field on third down. And I know we traded KB, but it's really time for the secondary, mainly Fulton, to clean their acts up now because we don't have Kevin Byard at this point. Because Kevin Byard ended up getting traded week 7. So, here's a few quick reactions about week 6. We'll go into week 7 in a second. Go through some of those headlines of week 7. Yada, yada, yada. The Falcons, Desmond Ridder, here's the bottom line about Desmond Ridder, is a backup quality quarterback. They're not going to win consistently with him. He had a 2 TD, 3-pick type of game. The offense is consistently inconsistent. Your offensive line didn't play well. And Desmond Ridder had the case of the oopsies. Like, you have a pretty good team. You have there's a lot of talent over at Flowery Branch, over in Hall County. There's a lot of talent over there. But the inconsistency with this Atlanta Falcons team, especially when it comes to the offense, that can't get out of their own way and they don't have good ball security right now, especially Desmond Ridder. They just can't seem to get out of their own way. Yeah. It's frustrating if you're a Falcons fan, and I grew up a Falcons fan, so I know exactly what they're feeling, if we're being completely honest. Like, there's a fire here in Atlanta that I don't know if the Falcons have figured it out what they're going to do, but there's a fire when it comes to Desmond Ridder. Are they going to put it out? Or are they just going to ignore it? Who knows? Next team, Denver Broncos. This is week 6, though. Because I'm only doing a few teams. Not going to do all 32, but we'll try to mix and match. Denver. This was a match made in hell. Russ played like dog crap. And I say he played like dog crap week 6. He didn't clock 100 yards and he had 2 interceptions. They didn't score until the 4th quarter. It went in already sloppy game that they played week 6, they managed to play the sloppiest. This is why I'm saying this is not going to work. It's not going to work for very much longer. No much. Especially when it starts going southwards. Now, right now, they do look good. And I might be eating my words as I speak. But based off of this game right here, the Patriots. Let's get into them. Week 6. They were played by mistakes. Sloppy play, quarterback play, questionable coaching, as they have been all year. Again, your offense is consistently inconsistent, pretty much due to Bill O'Brien. And I expected that. I was so ready to get rid of Bill O'Brien off of Alabama. I was like, bro, kick him on the way out the door. And it's depending on the O-line and receivers, turnovers may vary. Mac, if he starts to get hit a lot, and if the receivers can't generate separation, which isn't really big problem in New England, so to say, turnovers may happen. And at that point of the season, they were stacking up on injuries. Especially when they have to stay on the field for a while. Because I don't care how good your defense is. A good offense is pretty much going to wear that defense off. So, there's that. The New York Jets. I'm proud of them. I'm not a Jets fan. I'm a Titans fan. But they're playing together and as a team. Winning differently. And they're winning tough. I hated when the whole unnecessary ragging of Zach Wilson happened. Because it's like he has continued to play a smart brand of football. Making timely throws. Your defense picked Jalen Hurts 3 times. They picked him off 3 times. Excuse me. They did not allow 100 yards on the ground. That means they didn't get the crap ran out of them. Breece Hall and Garrett Wilson came to show something. When this team is playing balanced football and complementary football and Zach Wilson is being smart and for whatever reason, whenever Aaron Rodgers is there, Zach Wilson plays well. Keep him there. Keep him there. I mean, I don't care. But if I'm a Jets fan, I'm like, keep Aaron Rodgers in the building. Kidnap him or something. But still, yeah. Week 6, the Lions. I know what they did with the Ravens. But at the point of week 6, I will say they had been one of the better teams. Their offense, now the fact their offense took a minute to get going probably showed signs of what was to come, especially that next week. But Jameson Williams, let his name be called and he answered. They could still run the ball pretty well, even with the injuries that they have with the running backs. And they have plenty of weapons to stretch the field with. And then your defense stands in its head. They were playing Baker Mayfield and the Bucks at this point. So take it how you want to take it. The Commanders. Here's the thing about the Commanders. Now, we heard about Jonathan Allen, and that was hilarious. And Ryan Clark going off on what he had on was top tier. I loved it. But Samuel, I'm just misspeaking. I'm sorry. But Sam Howell was extremely efficient in this game. He was 14 of 23, 151 yards, 3 touchdowns. He wasn't the problem in week 6. The defense is starting to be very inconsistent at times, which is something that I'm not used to saying about a Washington defense. Their secondary is vulnerable. That is something I'm used to saying. But they did pick off Ritter 3 times. What did I say about the Falcons? That they're turnover prone. I promise you, if I look up who has the most interceptions, Desmond Ritter is probably going to be in the top. He's going to be up there somewhere. Hold on 1 second. Surprisingly, he's not. But he's just under Justin Fields with 8. I don't know how often this was updated, but I feel like by the time we end this season, he will be up there. Wait, hold on. Hold on. Let me find that because I think I misspoke. He has 5 interceptions. I feel like he's thrown a few passes that if it hadn't been, I've seen it. He's thrown some passes that should have been picks, if we're going to be completely honest. But, like I said, the Commanders picked off Ritter 3 times, including one to stop a potential game-tying drive. So they did end up buckling down at the end. And they have the weapons, so I don't know what they get out of being inconsistent, which is absolutely nothing. But the Philadelphia Eagles, they had lost. They lost week 6. And we knew this was coming. They hadn't clicked well offensively all season. And it's like, well, I know what A.J. Brown is, and you're force-feeding him sometimes. And it caught up to him then. Jalen Hurts did not play well. He played subpar. He threw 3 bad picks himself. He's on the road to throw some picks now that I haven't seen ever in my life. Well, let's not be too dramatic. He's on the road to throw more picks this year too. I don't know why. Your defense, secondary, this is why they went and got KB. Because they were vulnerable in the secondary. They're injured all over the defense. But they have major secondary depth concerns, if we're being completely honest about here. This is just week 6. And to an extent, you can still say that now. In a way. The Houston Texans are a sneaky good team. C.J. Stroud is quickly taking the necessary strides and is already a borderline top tier quarterback right now. And I'm not over exaggerating. I see it. And then the defense led by Coach Ryans, Will Anderson Jr., Derek Stingley and company is legit. And they have more room to grow. So there's that. And the Las Vegas Raiders, they can win ugly, but this is week 6. They won ugly, but it's wildly inconsistent. They won this game on the safety. And this is the week Jimmy G got hurt and Devontae was starting to put those out. He wants out messages and getting frustrated, and he just had to say it directly. This team, we're here now, is a losing streak away from implosion, and I believe that. And they can't do anything about it because they're cash poor. Poor Raiders. New Orleans Saints, week 6. They really allowed Derek Carr to throw the ball 50 times for 353 yards, 1 touchdown, and 1 interception. Ladies and gentlemen, this is textbook BS yards. Textbook. Because he didn't do crap that game. That team's offense is way too inconsistent, especially when it comes to actually finishing drives. The defense, when it's on the field for a long time, also prone to vulnerability and inconsistency. That happens to any defense, good or horrible. If you're on the field for a long time, you're going to get worn down. But as far as the Saints are concerned, I think they're having some buyer's remorse when it comes to Derek Carr. And I'm going to leave it at that. But week 6, they weren't too good. The Giants. And that I will say this, because they did not win versus the Jets today. They had a chance to win. And the Giants did Giants things. And they did not. But this is week 6 Giants. They look better with the Tyrod Taylor and Daniel Jones, clearly. Because, here's my reasoning. Tyrod doesn't take unnecessary sacks, nor does he turn the football over. Your offense seems to flow a heck of a lot better. They just look a lot more competitive than usual. Your defense, however, is still selective and inconsistent as that. And we saw that today. On to week 7. Again, we have some of our headlines. We're just going to go through some of our notes. Again, we all know that Titans trade Kevin Byard to the Eagles for Terrell Edmonds? I think. A 5th and a 6th round pick. Not that bad, but we're trying to recoup picks. Jim Irsay went public about incorrect calls that the Colts got screwed versus the Browns. I will say that. They got absolutely screwed. Brock Purdy had a concussion. Deshaun Watson is probably going to be week to week, and I don't know why they just don't go ahead and put him on IR and let him heal up for a month. And now the 49ers at that point had already lost 2 in a row. And they're in danger of losing another one. If we're being completely honest, if they haven't already lost. So we'll go through that soon, but there's that. But here are my analysis for the week 7 games, for last week games. Atlanta Falcons. They barely won this game, and Desmond Ridder did pretty much everything in his power to give that game away. I promise you, he did. Like, ball security and fumbling is a huge issue. He doesn't have a lot of picks. He fumbles. He can't keep the ball off the ground. He had 3 deep in Bucs territory. He did everything humanly possible to get that game away. It was a surprise that they won that game. Like I said, if they stick with him, if they continue to stick with him, and my message is going to be the same thing on the next episode, because I got to cover what he did week 8 versus my Titans. If they stick with him, somebody will get a pink slip. I don't know if it's Arthur Smith. I don't know if it's Terry Fortunato. I don't know who it is. But if they stick with him and he keeps stinking it up, somebody get fired. Better not get fired on your day off, though. Don't do that. Next, another team we just talked about a little bit, the Washington Commanders. And at this point, I had drawn the conclusion that they are not a good team. They're very competitive, and they have star pieces, but they are not a good team. I don't think they're coached very well. This team is way too inconsistent on the offensive side of things. Your D-line has to carry the entire team because your secondary is putrid. And Jonathan Allen clearly wasn't happy. Magic Johnson isn't happy. I just want to put out here that Ron Rivera is probably a DMW. What is that? A dead man walking. They keep this up, they'll fire him. I promise you they will. And I don't know who's going to be the interim. The Raiders. I don't know how many times we have to say these things, but 3 turnovers will get you beat. They didn't do much of anything well. Run, pass, or catch. They just did a whole lot of cardio and a whole lot of nothing. You can't do nothing about it because they are cash strapped and they can't afford to fire another head coach. Even though we know that Josh McDummy is not an inept head coach. And I'm not sorry. There's that. The Patriots. And here is the thing I do want to say. Mac Jones is taking way too much unnecessary heat. This is week 7. They didn't win week 8, but we'll discuss that too. Next week's episode. Kendrick Bourne is probably one of his favorite targets. And Demario Douglas is coming into his own. Better game plan, better execution. Belichick notoriously plays division opponents fairly tough. I think this was the game they had beat the Bills and Josh Allen did a Josh Allen. So there's that. Cleveland Browns. And I usually don't cover the Browns here on this channel because I don't like their quarterback. I don't like the things that he's done. I think he's a weirdo. But I have to make some this is something I had to talk about. That defense is definitely what drives them at this point. Because when they win pretty much when the defense dominates. They can't depend on Deshaun Watson right now, whether it's health-related, inavailability, health-related, whether he's hurt, pretty much, let's just make it simple, cut the crap out. Whether he's hurt and can't play, or when he does play, he's inconsistent. Also, they got 2 dumb calls in their way to give them that game. The Colts really should have won that game if we're being completely honest. But neither here, neither here. Bada bing, bada boom. Moving on to the Packers. And I wanted to give this man some hope. I did. When it comes to Jordan Love. But all the signs are pretty much pointing to he's inconsistent. Very inconsistent. He doesn't seem to see the field very well. He's turnover prone. His decision making is a little off. And in his defense, his main weapons have been injured for the most part. Could just be a blip on the radar, but if it continues, which it has continued, Green Bay will be looking for answers in the form of another quarterback. But here's one thing that they do need to exercise is patience, not panic. Clear. Buffalo Bills. This is why don't nobody take the Bills seriously. They live and die via Josh Allen. Your defense isn't really the same because you lost Matt Milano and a few others. Those injuries are starting to stack up a little bit. And force-feeding Stephon Diggs, even though lately they've been doing pretty good about spreading the ball around. But for a while, it was just them force-feeding Diggs. And that's not conducive to winning football later on in the season. If we're going to be completely honest here. And I still think they're overrated. Listen up, Featherbrains. I will be nice to you when I'm talking about to y'all. When I'm talking about the Ravens. They're nice right now, but can they do it consistently? Answer is no. Wasted energy. And I'm going to be completely honest. They wasted energy on OBJ, who's a key staple to an injury report. And I will be completely honest. Detroit had no clue how to stop Lamar. Most of the NFC teams don't really have a clue on how to stop Lamar. Because they don't see him as often. These AFC teams somewhat have a clue. You got to make him play quarterback. You got to take those legs out. Period. The Giants. Once again, we're going back to the week 6 part. They look better with Tyrod Taylor. They don't turn the ball over. Who doesn't turn the ball over under duress? Daniel Jones. And I hope Daniel Jones does seem to recover from his injury. That offensive situation is absolutely garbage, especially with that offensive line. And this is why when Evan Neal said what he said, I'm like, why are you talking, bro? Why are you talking? Because you were very good in college. You went to Alabama. But why are you talking when you're not that good in the NFL? And we're starting to see Darren Waller and others emerge from football purgatory. That was Daniel Jones. Period. Now, Titans talk for this time is theme of the week, rumors, Oilers, BS, and dramatics. And I'm so glad that I got to see those throwbacks. Those were so nice. And we did get to wear our throwbacks, and we did win that game. So stay tuned for next week as I break that down. So let's talk about our rumors about Derrick Henry. And we actually got confirmation about Mr. Henry, that those were rumors, were just rumors, and that he don't want to go nowhere. He prefer to stay, but yeah. Here's the thing about Derrick Henry. Trading him, cap hit. We're still gonna have to take on a cap hit to get him out of here. Competitiveness of this team is definitely gonna go down by a lot when you get rid of a player of that caliber. I'm talking to the irresponsible. I'm not irresponsible. I'm talking about to the trade the idiots that don't understand where we are as a franchise. Y'all think we're in the rebuild. Most people would think you're in the rebuild. No, I don't think they're in the rebuild. They just got to retool the offense and will be competitive, especially when it comes to wide receivers and the quarterback. Even though I think we found the quarterback today, this is not the week to discuss that. But regardless, the locker room. That man is a captain. We already traded away Kevin Byard. Why would we trade away two captains without telling without even... That tells the locker room that we're tanking, and that makes people not even want to be there. That's just stupid. Like, the people, like, you irrational Titans fans really irk me when you come up with these hypothetical stupid trade ideas, because that's exactly what it is. Like, the cap hit. We have to take on more cap. And what are we trying to do? We're trying to get more cap for next year, clearly. And we need more draft capital. So we would have to eat some cap for that. And with that type of running back, why are we eating that type of cap and he's not on the roster? It's stupid. Makes no sense. Mind you, December coming up, so you know he get rolling in December. Let's think with our heads and not our emotions, because I knew that it wasn't very good for the past few weeks. But this whole trade 2-2 thing, when he's the best, that he's the one that gets the offense going, is flat out idiotic, and it's pathetic, and I don't like seeing it. And it's highly unlikely. Lord. And AJ Brown, I just got to address it because I'm tired. AJ Brown, Mr. Tweet and Delete, he keeps taking little shots at his former team, which may or may not be accurate. A winner now. We were 32-17 when we had you, so shove that up your rear. We also had a number 1 seed with you, and they've won games where you really didn't matter. So you're sitting over here trying to troll, and you're alternative facts. You're still one of the best wide receivers. But don't sit here and act like we were just this loser organization. We're struggling. Right? Offensive inconsistency because of John Robinson, because he decided to get you up out of there. But sit here and just send shots? Oh, you're with the winner now. Okay, AJ. Because when people do it to you, you hate when Titans fans troll you with a certain emoji. You start blocking folks quick with that, but you keep saying things to antagonize your former team's fans. You know what the heck you're doing. And you're playing with your best friend. So hush. Oh, here's another one that gets me all riled up and excited. Fire Vrabel and hire who? Fire Vrabel and hire who? Y'all couldn't handle if you fired him and he went to a meaningful playoff game right after. Y'all would have a fit because that's exactly what he would do. That's the type of coach he is. Y'all let this man wit and sarcasm really dictate y'all's emotions, and it shows. You don't like it when he don't want to be transparent. Like, you make y'all want to say some dumb stuff like fire him. Firing that man now will set us back years too, if we're being completely honest. Good coaches are not that easy to find. You better ask Denver. You better ask these other places that have had coaching carousels. And clearly, all y'all making these irrational statements and these dumb hypotheses and theses and theories, y'all don't have the nerve to sit through it. Clearly. Fire Vrabel. And hire who? Like, let's be real with ourselves here. The Oilers crybabies thing. There's a brigade of Texans fans who are just so pissed and butthurt about the Oilers. Grow up. Stop being pathetic little crybabies. They should have built a new stadium when they wanted it. Cherish that new franchise, and you're playing very well. And quit the foolish, childish behavior. It's maniacal nonsense. It's one team's history, and I'm sorry that it ain't y'all. I'm so sorry. And now we're gonna go through some of my week 8 picks, even though the game's already started, so it makes no sense. But you'll just know who I picked for this week and whether or not I'm right or wrong, because this is coming out on a Sunday. Falcons versus Titans. I picked Titans. Patriots versus Dolphins. Now my pick'em says I had the Patriots, but I already knew the Dolphins were gonna win this game. Jets and Giants. I picked the Jets. Jaguars, Steelers, I picked the Jags. I think. Yeah, I picked the Jags. Texans, Panthers, I picked the Texans. Rams, Cowboys, pick 'em. I picked the Rams to cover. And I picked the Cowboys to win the game. Vikings, Packers, I picked the Vikings. I think. Yeah. Saints, Colts, I picked the Colts. Eagles, Commanders, I picked the Eagles. Browns, Seahawks, I picked the Seahawks. Ravens, Cardinals, I picked the Ravens. Chiefs, Broncos. And the Chiefs just made me mad. I picked the Chiefs. The Bengals versus 49ers, I picked the Bengals. Yeah, I picked the Bengals. Raiders, Lions. Picked the Raiders. No, that's a bold-faced lie right there. I picked the Lions. I picked the Lions. Now, hold on one second. Because we got to do Jori's Jacked Up Tears. We cannot forget that. Cannot. So I'm going to pull up the last time I did Jori's Jacked Up Tears. And we're going to go off the dome. So last time we did Jori's Jacked Up Tears, my juggernauts were the Eagles, 49ers, the Lions, the Dolphins, the Bengals. Clearly, there was a shakeup. A huge shakeup. This time, on my juggernauts, I'm going to put the Ravens. I'm going to put the Cowboys. I'm going to put the Lions. I'm going to put the Bengals. And I'm trying to see. Yeah, no. there's that. For last time's just came in some crew, which is stuck under a juggernaut. I had the Rams, Seahawks, Ravens, Bills. Oh yeah, put the Bills in the juggernauts. The Chiefs, Saints, Cowboys, Vikings. This week, we got the Jaguars, the Texans, the Seahawks, Saints, even though they lost. I think they lost. The Saints, the Vikings. Trying to think. Do I want to put the Rams in there? Because they just laid an egg today. But this is not based off of today's action. It's based off of last week's action. So I'll just keep those there. Keep the Rams there. And Jori's jump starts. We're going to have my Titans, my Falcons. I'm humble enough to admit when my division rivals are playing better than my team. I'm not one of those delusional ones. The Cardinals, Commanders, Steelers, Colts, Giants. No, not the Giants. They're going to be where I put them next. The jump starts are like the teams that are just average and trying to get it together. Tweak a thing or two, and they'll move up. They start to slide, they'll move down to the next category, which we'll get into. The Bucks, even though I think they've earned their way too. Well, yeah, they're Bucks, the Packers, the Bears, the Chargers. And then we had our final category, which is the Junkyard Crew. And we had the Giants, the Patriots, the Broncos, and the Raiders last week. And this week, I'm going to put the Raiders, the Giants, the Packers, and I feel like there's another team that should be on there, and I can't think about it right now. But, yeah. But there was this week 7's edition of Jori's Jacked Up Tears. Y'all know the drill. Thanks for tuning in to another exciting episode of Jori Sports Stories. If you enjoyed today's discussion, make sure you like, comment, subscribe via YouTube. If you're listening on any of the podcasting platforms, make sure you comment, make sure you follow the podcast, get notifications for new episodes. And don't forget to share the podcast with your fellow sports enthusiasts, and let's keep this conversation going. And remember, you can catch me over on Sports Empire Network and their awesome lineup of shows. And you can just catch me floating around in the sportsverse. We'll be back next week with more exciting sports content. So stay tuned till next time. I'm Jori, signing out.